Trials of a Royal Guard. By Ansel. Chapter 31. Rebuilding. The air in Canterlot had seemed sweeter in the last couple of days. Fall was going to be coming soon and the temperature was starting to drop. That just meant I needed to get more work done. I carefully sawed a board while Dr. Kitty hammered the last one I'd cut into place on the exterior of the house crystal and I had bought. "So, you looked at it and bought it the exact same day?" Dr. Kitty asked before hammering another nail in. "We sure did." Crystal was so excited about this place and I just wanted to see her happy. Plus, this house looks like it needed some love. The orange mare nodded before tapping the board with a hoof. "That is for sure. This style really came into prominence about 200 years ago. The architect that came up with it was named Handsome Hoof. He was all about dramatic lines. That is why the peak is so high." She pointed to the addition with the much more graceful roofline. "Now that slope, that isn't him." My ears wiggled. "How do you know that?" "Oh, you know, reading. That and the fact that I'm a general contractor." "Next board, please." I finished my cuts and offered it to her. "You're a contractor? And a doctor? And a physical therapist?" Dr. Kitty settled the board in place and started hammering. "Yup. Dr. Kitty, MD, PhD, and GC. I like to learn new skills and that is super okay. Over the last 3 days I'd learned most things were super okay. Being angry, having the desire to punch things, and such were super okay. How I handled those feelings in the past might not have been super okay. On the plus side, whether she was a good doctor or not, Dr. Kitty was, without a doubt, a great contractor. We'd been doing our therapy sessions here while we worked. Her contribution was immense. Our house would forever bear her mark, literally. She'd drawn a kitty face on every piece of lumber. Thankfully, it was on the side that went against the frame. I cleared my throat. I learned construction during my time at the Canterlot Academy. I built sets for her plays. It doesn't exactly relate, but it is close enough. The tools are all the same. I'm glad to have your help, though." "No problem. I like this kind of therapy. We can talk and you can take out aggression with a hammer and it is super okay." To prove her point, she slammed a nail in with a single strike. "RAAR. Then why am I cutting and you're doing all of the hammering?" Dr. Kitty swished her tail. "Maybe you're not the only pony that needs to let out aggression now and then? Besides, we worked out a lot of yours on the heavy bag this morning. I'm shocked you can even work those hooves." With a snort, I set up another board to cut. "Dr. Kitty, I'm shocked. Surely you can look at a virile stallion like me and know I have stamina for days. I try not to look at patients like that." "Next board, please." I started to saw but chuckled. "Are we really doing therapy? This doesn't feel like it. Are you sure I'm not just using you for free labor?" "Totally. Totally sure. Perhaps I'm using your labor as free therapy? Have you ever thought of that, Mr. Knight?" "No, but now I'm confused about who is in therapy." Dr. Kitty cheered, "Yay. Next board, please. No falling behind. We've got to get this place buttoned up and dress right dress. She's going to be the belle of the ball come fall." "Okay, okay. I'm sawing as fast as I can." "Precision counts." "It does, but the pressure mounts." My hoof stopped mid-cut and I tilted my head to look at her. She was giggling. "I'm not sure this kind of therapy works." "It will if you'll tolerate my quirks." "Cut that out," I said, half serious, half amused. "Cut that board and drop that doubt." She was the silliest pony I knew. Even more silly than Azurite and Sunny Day, and that said something. To be honest, I wasn't sure if I was getting better, but I certainly was less miserable. My days were brighter and the nightmares had eased dramatically. That was allowing me to sleep. In truth, they'd simply just stopped or weren't bad enough anymore to wake me up every night. Crystal had assured me I was resting more soundly since my visit with Sunny and the princess. Then there was my work with Dr. Kitty. She and I had talked about serious things now and then in our short association. Dread night, killing, and all of the awful things I had to see and do. She never judged me, but she wasn't flippant about them, either. She had a motto: trauma is trauma but ponies aren't ponies. That meant you could treat trauma similarly, but every pony was different and couldn't be classified. That is why she tailored her treatments to individuals. That was appreciated. Thus, now we were rehabilitating an old house together as part of my recovery plan. It was much better than a one strike and you're out situation. I finished the cuts and offered her the board. Here you go, I'm sorry I was slow. This board here is ready to, her face lit up. Be hammered. Rhyme that. Dr. Kitty's lips briefly poked out as she accepted it. While she started to nail it into place, she yammered, all right, so perhaps rhyming isn't for you. Perhaps it isn't. Although it wasn't all a voice came from behind me. Forgive me for interrupting this rhythmic exchange, Major Knight, but I need to ask you something. Dr. Kitty and I both turned in surprise, having been completely unaware that some pony else was nearby. Was I slipping already? Where were my battle senses? The priestess Myri stood just outside of my front garden, draped in her flowing silver cloak. Mr. Knight, and what can I do for you? Myri bobbed her head. Apologies. Mr. Knight. Have you seen Exemplar Feral in the last 2 days? I haven't. Has she wandered off to plan another birthday party? No. I'm afraid not. The Exarch returned to the temple a day or so ago. Exemplar Feral exchanged words with her and they grew quite heated. Their voices carried but the words were not understandable to us. I believe they were an ancient unicorn. Once that was concluded, the Exemplar had dinner with us as normal and then disappeared into the night while we were sleeping. We have not seen her since. It was my honest hope that she would seek you out. As I understand it, she often runs across you. Heated words? From the Exemplar? That seemed virtually impossible. I wondered what that was about. I shook my head. I'm really sorry, but I honestly haven't seen her. If she does find her way here, though, I'll bring her back to you. Where else might she go? Myri shook her head. We don't know. She's lived within the Canterlot Temple for at least 100 years. Longer than the Exarch, even. Mr. Knight, you know she doesn't do well outside. If you can think of anything at all. I briefly looked over to Dr. Kitty. She didn't seem to have any answers. Turning back to Myri, I said, if it were me, I'd go to the Royal Guard. They find missing ponies all the time and Exemplar Feral sticks out like a griffin chick in full care. Go to the palace, ask for Captain Day, and tell her I sent you. She'll put you on the right track. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'll do that right away. And if you do see her, please bring her home. I'm really worried. This isn't like her, Myri replied before turning in the direction of the palace. She paused. Oh, but before I go. I don't know if this means anything to you, but the last thing she said to me at dinner was odd. It is why I came here, actually. She said, when you see Silent Night, tell him to beware the forgotten winter. I shook my head. That doesn't mean anything to me. Just more of her ominous warnings that are more vague than helpful. Good luck, Myri. She nodded. Thank you. Then she trotted on her way. Dr. Kitty wiggled behind me. Oh. I wonder what that means. I've never read a book about a forgotten winter. It's a mystery. Maybe we should go look for her. Then, if we find her, we can ask all about it. I shook my head and started cutting another board. Nope. Nope. Ah, come on. Adventure therapy. Nope. Building therapy. Nothing good ever comes from the things exemplar feral says. I don't want to get wrapped up in this. I'm not a soldier anymore. I'm a pony that is trying to rebuild a house. Got it? Dr. Kitty lifted her hammer and replied, yes, sir. The next hour or so of building was completed in silence. Verbal silence, anyway. We'd been making all kinds of racket with hammering, sawing, and other construction activities. That was okay with me. I was trying not to think about the exemplar. Thankfully, a distraction was coming up the road. My beautiful wife was heading home, and today she wasn't alone. Her companion was a pony I was unfamiliar with, a stunningly attractive unicorn mare. Her coat was the purest white and her mane and tail were a regal purple. That all paled in comparison to her big blue eyes. She had the kind of beauty that turned heads. Not that I'd ever admit that in front of Crystal. My wife was very attractive, but this pony was just in a whole different class. As they got close, I tried to look busy. So did Dr. Kitty. She was currently tapping her hammer on one of the windows. Silent. My goodness, you've gotten so much work done. Crystal squealed in delight as she trotted up and dotted my face with kisses. I've got a good helper, I replied. That's me. Dr. Kitty cheered before putting the hammer through the window. Oops. Don't worry. I'll pay for it. We were going to get new glass anyway. Crystal blinked and then looked back to me in confusion. I just shrugged. Anyway, I've hired an expert to help me with the interior. I'd like to present Miss Rarity of Canterlot Couture fame. So the white mare was Rarity. That was a name I knew. Not for Canterlot Couture, I had no idea what that was. She carried an element of harmony and fought off big, nasty, magical creatures that threatened our kingdom. I bobbed my head. It is really nice to meet you, ma'am. You've been a great help to the princesses. I'm honored. Rarity waved a hoof. Oh, think nothing of it, dear. The saving the kingdom role is just one of my hats, and believe me, I have many hats. My passion is fashion and design. I just couldn't pass up the chance to help your wife with your house. Her big blue eyes lifted to our dwelling and she cleared her throat. And just in time, too. I think you're very brave, Mrs. Wishes, for buying into one of Handsome Hoof's designs. Crystal took Rarity's hoof in her own. I know they're not in vogue right now. You don't have to hide your misgivings. It just, well, I love it. Please come inside. If any pony can make it right, you can. Oh, of course, darling. We'll fix it right up. Come, show me your vision. As the two of them trotted off inside, Dr. Kitty came over to me. I'm not even into mares and I'd kiss her all day long. I hope you're talking about Rarity. Otherwise this is going to be a really awkward conversation. Oh. Yes, Rarity. Not that I wouldn't kiss your wife. I mean, I would if you wanted. That would be super okay, but I'm not really into mares. I glanced at her sideways. Really? Really? Hey, don't tell me you've never seen a stallion and thought, you know what, if I was going to be with a stallion, it would be him. My eyes widened a bit and I cleared my throat. Back to work. Work therapy. Next board. Dr. Kitty giggled as she went over and started back on her tasks. We worked for another couple of hours together and chatted before our time drew to a close. Once it had, she headed off, leaving me to the tasks remaining for the day. That wasn't so bad. Although, in truth, I preferred to work with Dr. Kitty around. She kept me focused and distracted. It was harder to think about awful things when she was acting like herself. Tomorrow she'd be back and we'd go on like normal. Crystal and Rarity had left, too. They had shopping to do. Shopping and planning. The sun was starting to get low in the sky and I knew it would be time to head back to the condo soon, but I just wanted to get a bit of painting done. It would be better if I could prime all of the lumber we'd put up today. As I was working on getting that task completed, a shadow crossed over me. Well, hello there, sir. I grinned and turned around. Captain Bringia, how are you? The griffin was sitting just outside my fence, watching me work. She wasn't in uniform other than a somewhat official-looking satchel settled to her side. Bringia grinned a beaky grin. I am well, sir. How are you? Doing well enough, I suppose. What brings you out? How did you find me? Warrant Officer Orchid is very bad at keeping secrets, even if they aren't secrets. That sounds about right. Bringia stretched her wings out and shook them. Do not blame her. She is just doing her best. She took your exit very personal. I did not. I think you were very smart. Oh yeah. Oh, yes. I finished my reintegration and resigned. Enough war. Now I am a pony. She stood, came over, and picked up a paintbrush. I work for the mail service here during the day and dance during the night. I chuckled at that. I'm not sure you're a pony, but welcome to being an equestrian. Where are you dancing? I'd love to see the act. You talk so much about it but we never had time to ever set it up. Bringia carefully spread primer over the lumber, showing off her usual attention to detail. I am working at the Mare Contraire. The owner Dolly is very good to me. You should come. Mostly girl ponies watch me. There are not many boy ponies to flirt with. Poor Bringia. The Mare Contraire is a filly fooler bar, so mares are going to be your primary audience. I'll come see your act, though. The Griffoness turned her head to me. What is filly fooler? Oh, come now, surely you heard that term while you were serving with us. You know, filly fooler. Mares that like mares. Her head tilted and she stared at me. I do not follow. Maras all like maras. A chuckle bubbled up. If only she knew. No, not like that. Mares that like mares like you pretend to like tumble. As mates. Bringia's feathers fluffed up. Who says I am pretending? But, what a strange phrase, filly fooler. That does explain why so many wish to buy me drinks. It was good to hear that the ponies of Canterlot weren't hateful towards a griffin. Especially one like Bringia. She'd earned her way here. Maybe ask your boss about where you can meet boy ponies, stallions. I'm sure she'll know. If that is really what you want to do. Oh yes. I will meet boy ponies. I should go, sir. Almost time for my dancing. The eyes is for you, though. She reached into her satchel and pulled out a letter and small pad. Special delivery, in here. I signed the pad and accepted the letter. Thank you. I'll see your act soon, I promise. I'll even see if I can get Tumble to come, although he is living in Ponyville now. Bringia smiled and hugged me. Very good, sir. See you later. With a few pumps of her wings, she shot up into the sky and off on her way. That just left me with a little daylight and a lot of priming to do. Although I could do it the next day. It was probably best to get home to Crystal. Still. I shouldn't leave the boards unprimed. On the other hoof, there was a welcome distraction waiting for me. I turned the letter over. The writing on it was unmistakable, even after all of these years. It was from Shining Armor. Distraction it is. I settled onto the front stoop and opened the envelope. Silent Night, I truly am sorry that I've not written you sooner. I realize you've been home from the war for about a month now. It is shameful you've not heard from me. As you might guess, I'm busy beyond expression. Holding together what remained of the Royal Guard here while you did your work there was not easy. That is not to say, however, that what you did was. I would very much like to see you sooner rather than later. I followed your career as best I could while you were gone and worry that what you had to endure was extreme. You should always feel comfortable with reaching out to Cadence or myself. We're your friends and here for you. We'd love to have you visit our home once more and meet our son. Son? They had a foal? Of course they did, they've been married for years. That is what normal ponies did. A son, though, probably strong like his father but sweet like his mother. The kind of son I hope to have someday. I'd keep him from war, though. My eyes fell back to the paper, seeking the distraction as quickly as I could before my thoughts turned too far inwards. If you cannot visit soon, please write me. Tell me how you have been. How was it coming home? I very much wanted to come see you in person, but the strangest thing has happened here. Strange is not the appropriate word actually. Most horrible is more appropriate. We've had 2 deaths in the Crystal Empire that look like murder, unicorn sisters killed most violently. And yet their home was locked from the inside and nothing seems amiss. Were it not for a concerned neighbor having heard a brief plea for help, no pony would have been the wiser. This is the situation I find myself in, with guards far too green and ill-prepared. Please accept that as a weak excuse for being a poor friend. Write me soon. Shining Armor 2 murders? That was astounding, unfathomable almost. It would certainly be the sort of thing that Shining Armor and his top ponies would have to handle immediately and personally. I understood that. It would be nice to see him, though. I slipped the letter into my satchel and put all of my tools away. Tomorrow would be another day to work on the house. Tonight, I'd at least send a letter back and drop it in the special delivery box. That way he'd know I wasn't mad. If I were in his shoes, I'd drop everything to investigate. Especially when it came to a case like that. Magic had to be involved if the house was locked. Maybe, no. I'm not a royal guard anymore. Time to go home to my wife. Author's note: I've been eager to share this particular chapter. There is simply a ton going on in it as we head back up the hill. If you are enjoying this story, please consider taking a look at Crystal and Maya's website quillandblade.com for extra content such as mini-stories, an Ask Us form to submit questions, responses to said questions, and special rewards for the awesome folks who support our Patreon. End author's note.